Folks and friends, team, family, and followers from around the entire world, this is Britnie Turner. I'm Jerremy Newsom, and this is the Broke to Woke podcast. In this episode, we will be discussing our firsts. All right, first starting in entrepreneur positions, first jobs, first creations, the things that we did, what we did, and how we did it. This is a must listen. Stay tuned. We've already learned so much about each other through this process.
Yeah.
I'm having a phenomenal
It's
time.
interesting.
And I know our listeners are having a great time. We're already getting good results, good feedback. People are excited about this. I'm excited about this. I want to learn so much about you in this episode.
What do you want to know?
What was your very first real estate deal?
Oh, man.
And we're going to walk through all of it. We're going to get it deep because before the real estate deal, there was a lot of going-ons. So walk me through the whole process.
I kind of have a two-parter
Okay.
first real estate deal.
That's
so my very first house I ever bought, I was 18 years old.
Okay.
So I'm going through this survival school so that I could be a hardcore missionary, live in Africa, save babies from human trafficking. Like, that was my life. That was my identity. It's what everybody knew about me. And this guy came in. Remember, I had a resentment towards rich people at the time.
Yeah. Yep.
And being the star student that I was, they said this multimillionaire is coming in and he's going to be teaching about wealth. And I said, perfect. I'm not going to go to that class. What a waste of time.
Wow.
What a waste of time. So I skipped that day.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. I went to class the next day. Being the excellent student that I was, I didn't realize he was speaking for multiple days. So I'm in the back being all holy, and I was writing my vision of creating a missionary training base, a place that you can come learn business, the Bible, survival. And it was so cool.
You were doing that at 18?
And leadership. Oh, yeah. I was
Wow.
like designing this base where
Wow.
that's the biggest I could possibly dream was I would train other missionaries to be actually really effective.
Yeah.
So I'm in the back doing that, not really listening. Then he said, who in here has gone on a mission trip? And I was like, fine, I can finally participate. Me, I've been on a mission trip. Raised my hand. And then he said, who in here has had to raise money for that mission trip? I raised my hand again. And he said, who in here did not like that process? And I was like, me, I hated it. I remember writing these letters and they'd have to be like really sad pictures of the kids we're going to go help. And then you'd write 150 letters. It took so much time. Stamps were $1 zillion to me at that time.
Yeah.
And you'd get like $20. And I was like, this seems like a waste. I'm spending more money on stamps than I'm getting in donations.
Yep.
So I would always go just make my own money. And he said, did you know that you can buy a house with no money down? This is in 2007.
Yep. Okay.
And if your mortgage payment is $900 a month, but you rent it out for $1,200 a month, that's a thing called cash flow. You get to keep that $300. And I was like, go on.
Yeah.
He said, do that 10 times and you can live in Africa and you never have to ask someone for money again. And so this little 18-year-old's brain goes, should I?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
And so I loved that idea. So I went to somebody and I said, I need to learn how to buy a house. And I show up at their house and I've got a little clipboard.
Do you remember who it was?
Yeah. Her name was April Cleek.
Okay.
And I went and sat at her house and they were going on and on and on, her and her husband, about interest-only ARM mortgages.
Why her? Why April?
Only person that said they could tell me how. She was the survival team leader.
Okay.
And so I'm writing it down. They're going on about interest-only ARM mortgages. No idea what they're talking about. And all I wrote down, I was like, was do not buy a house. It's too hard. But they happen to be side realtors and they wanted to get a commission.
Definitely.
So they go,
Which is fine.
we're going to force this chick to buy a house.
Yeah.
And so I honestly didn't really even want to buy this dang house. And so I looked at houses, and my budget was $140,000, and we kept missing them because the market was so hot. Finally got one. Had no idea that it was on a flight path, and it was basically planes would land on top of this house. It was so
Okay.
close to their wheels. It shook the whole building. But I still bought it, and that was my very first house.
Whoa.
I rented out the rooms to other students in the school.
Okay.
And they were artists and never paid rent. It was really annoying. but that was my first venture. In the process of buying it, I heard about this thing called flipping houses, which I'd never heard of before.
Okay.
Grew up without TV.
Yep.
HGTV wasn't a thing.
Yep.
And the concept was you can buy a crappy house, put a lot of work into it. I'm a hard worker.
Yep.
And you could make like $10,000, which is $1 billion to an 18-year-old missionary.
Yeah.
You could save these chunks of money.
Sure.
And you could have $100,000. Then with that, that could be your down payment on an apartment complex, which could make $10,000 a month, which then I can buy my own orphanages and tell everybody to suck it. I don't need your sponsorship money. I can do whatever I want, and there's no cap on my calling. And so this is how the wheels are turning. So I devised my plan. I'm like, all right, I'm going to learn how to flip houses, and I'm going to move to Africa and build my own orphanages before I turn 26.
Okay.
I have to buy an apartment complex before I turn 26 because I don't want to be an old missionary. That was my plan. And so I Google, what colleges teach you how to flip houses? Because my plan was always to go through this missionary training school and then go to college and then blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Guess what happens in 2006 when you Google, or 2007 when you Google which houses or which colleges teach you how to flip houses? Nothing pops up.
Sure.
So I'm very practical. I go, I guess I'm not going to college. That was not exactly a popular decision back then.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Most people lost their mind when I said that was my choice. And I was like, I'm very pro-education, but they didn't teach what I wanted to learn.
Sure.
And so
I typed in buying homes in college.
Right. Nothing.
No one teaches that.
No one teaches that. So why would I go? And they go, it's just what you do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why?
Yeah. Okay. That was one of the weird trajectories.
Yes.
Right there.
That's where I started to split off it. And everybody's reasoning, I'm telling you, I was really, really shamed. People who on paper are supposed to support and love you were attacking me, telling me I was going to be a loser forever. I had family members stop talking to me. I was like that person you don't want to be seen with over this. And I'm like, guys, they don't teach what I want to learn. So that is the beginning of my journey.
Okay.
The beginning, but it goes on from there. I want to hear about you.
All right. What part?
So you were 6.
Yeah.
You were 6 in your first trade.
That was my first, I guess, my first investment, my first purchase. I didn't purchase it because in order to have a brokerage account, you have to be 18.
Right. So you sold the stock. What the heck happens after that?
So I'm 12 years old. We were going from Georgia to Florida because my dad got a promotion. He was a pharmaceutical salesman. He worked for a company called Boehringer Ingelheim. And we moved to Jacksonville for like 3 months. So when we were in Jacksonville, he gives me this $12,000. And again, that's $1 billion. I'm the richest kid in the world.
How old were you again?
12.
You're 12.
Yeah, 12 with $12,000. I'm like, man, I'm the greatest human in the world.
Did your walk change?
I think probably.
Did your walk turn into a strut?
Yeah, probably. I didn't know what to do with it though. That was the problem. Is I had no idea. And so, what do you do when you don't know anything? You ask your parents.
Buy a 4-wheeler.
I didn't do that.
Okay.
I didn't do that. Mostly because I am accident prone.
Oh.
Yeah, and I had broken bones. I've broken almost every bone in my body other than my spine.
What?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I need to hear about that.
Yeah. So we have. I'm in Jacksonville. We're in an apartment for 3 months. I get $12,000. I asked my dad, what should I do with it? And he's like, buy bonds.
Okay.
I was like, what are bonds? And so he tells me about II and IE bonds.
Uh-huh.
Bonds pretty much meaning if an II bond, if I'm not mistaken, is you buy a bond at face value for like $200 and you buy it for $100. And in 27 years, it'll become $200.
Sounds not good.
Well, I was like, sounds safe to me.
Sounds
as
safe.
a 12-year-old, and my dad's like, yeah, you made this money, might as well, protect it. And I was like, okay, cool. So I bought a bunch of II bonds from the bank. So at the time, you could go to the bank and go, hey, I want bonds, and they'll give you bonds. It's actually like legitimately, pieces of paper with money on them. like faces and everything, and you buy them.
Huh.
And so we bought them, and then I put them in a safety security deposit box or something, and that was it. That's all I did. So when I was at that point in time at 12, I wanted to figure out a way to grow and make more money. And I knew picking blackberries worked once. So let me go try to do that again. So I was in Jacksonville. I created a business called Two Boys and a Bike. It was me and one other guy who ended up not doing anything. Yeah. And
partnerships.
Right? Partnerships are so tough. So I rode around picking blackberries on my bike and selling them door to door in an apartment complex, which was even easier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because where I lived out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, no.
So when I'm talking about going knocking on doors and getting money, I'm talking, guys, I would walk for like an hour to find a house, knock on one door, they wouldn't be home, on to the next trailer, knock on there. So it was a process. But now I have all these houses.
Wow.
I'm thinking I'm going to make so much money. I did. I made another $1,500, I think, that in that 3-month period just selling blackberries.
For $1 a pop.
For $1 a pop. Now, some people would give me a little bit more because I'm a 12-year-old kid. They're like, yeah, man, here's $5. We'll take a bag. Or we'll take 2 bags, whatever.
That's sweet.
Yeah, so, some people are nice. But that was that transition. And then when I turned 18, I always told my parents, the day I turn 18, I'm out this house. I am gone. I'm going to get my own apartment. And they're like, sure you will. No. The day I turned 18, I'm out by signing my lease and everything. I had some money saved up, some of the BlackBerry money. But I also had all this money in bonds. And I was like, what is all that money worth? It's 6 years later.
Yeah.
It was worth $12,072.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I made like $72 in interest, and I was mad. And I didn't even think about Apple. It was a process. Like I didn't even do the math. I didn't even know. So I opened up a Scottrade account. Scottrade no longer exists. They got bought out by somebody, but they were a broker. At 18, I opened up a Scottrade account. And I pretty much took whatever money I had left over from buying a really nice TV, a really nice couch, a really nice surround sound stereo speaker system for my house because that's the only way to watch movies.
Of course.
And, I had money for rent and all that. So I just pretty much took all that money and blew it other than like $1,300.
No.
Because, you remember, 12 years ago, how much were TVs?
Yeah.
I mean,
so expensive.
This was a nice TV, one of those big plasma, like 57-inch, whatever it was. It was like $5,000 for the whole thing from Best Buy.
Ugh.
I think that system right now would maybe cost $600. So I spent $5 large on just that, and then I got the couch, and I got like a bed, whatever. So I blew all the money.
Yeah.
Opened up $1,300, and then I remember people always said, I remember one phrase I've heard in school or random movies or films or newspapers: diversify your portfolio. Now, everyone knows that term. No one knows what it means. And when I heard it, I was like, okay, I got to diversify my portfolio. I had $1,300. So I bought 1 share of ExxonMobil. I bought 1 share of CBS. I bought 1 share of, I think, Fox. And then 1 share of Apple. And then the rest I bought on penny stocks.
Oh, man, those penny stocks.
So I diversified my $1,300 portfolio was diverse. And that was 2008.
Oh, no.
Yeah, around 2008. So.
Oh, no. Did you buy it on the cheap or did you buy it on the expensive side?
Well, I probably bought it on the expensive side. I really had no clue what I was doing. I mean, literally would just Google the company's name and go, yeah, I know what ExxonMobil is, so let me buy a share. And I think at the time it was like $74 a share, which is how much it's worth now.
Oh, God.
So you're not talking about any kind of great growth. So
Right.
I just bought all these random companies, and I wanted them to grow because I'm sitting here, I'm 18. I'm like, I want this money to do what it did on Apple, like go up. And it wasn't going up. So I was frustrated, and I was selling them and buying them, and I was trying to grow this $1,300 account. And eventually 13 became 6, and then 6 became 4, and 4 became 2. And I was like, screw it. So I just took out $200 and went and played poker. Yeah.
Oh.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was kind of like my first investment crash course into, I'm 18 and a half, and just blew $1,300.
What I'm gaining from this story is a lot of people I've seen that have these big dreams, all this stuff, they're really afraid to take the first step.
Yep.
In G-Force, we call this, did you do something bad before any delays? And you were a mess on your first time by yourself, buying all these things. You had no idea what you were doing, and it didn't work out great. I bought a house on a flight path that 10 years later wasn't worth a dime more
Uh-huh.
than what I paid for it in 2007. And your first is probably going to be a flop,
It will.
but it's okay.
It's okay, guys.
If it got you in the door, then it was a blessing.
Get in the door.
And most people, if they
Yes.
have any flops, they think, I suck at this. It wasn't meant to be. God closed the door, blah, blah, blah. And that's not the point. The point is, are you going to keep getting up
Yeah.
and figuring it out?
Yeah.
And we were having a conversation last night, and you said, it doesn't matter what room I'm in. You better watch out. I'm gonna learn everything I can about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the biggest learner in this room
Yeah.
because I will find a way, not an excuse. And I love that because this is the criteria of a winner,
Because if I get placed in a room, I'm generally not the smartest person in that room.
right?
Unless that room is talking about stocks. If it's anything else, I don't know anything.
I try not to be the smartest person in the
You
room.
have to, correct.
If you're consistently the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong dang room.
Yeah.
I'll call up my best friend and be like, oh my gosh, I was the biggest peasant there. It was awesome. It was amazing. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, because my brain expansion of what's normal.
Yeah.
Your brain is meant to keep you alive.
Yeah, it is.
And if the people around you do not approve of you, then your brain understands you'll get kicked out of the village and eaten by dinosaurs.
Right.
And so be very careful of what village you're in.
Oh, let's talk about the best villages to be in the next episode because
Oh,
that's,
that's
oh man, this is already getting me fired up.
Pick your village. Thank you so much for listening in on Broke to Woke. We are so excited about this podcast. If you're interested in doing this for yourself, good news, there's more. And if you want to connect to us, go to GeForce Mastermind on Instagram or GeForceMastermind.com. You can even hang out with us, go on a trip with us. Our goal is to help you find your purpose, understand the little key differences so that you can be an even more powerful force for good in the world.